Hey guys, what's up? So we're back for our fourth Sunday of this Lent study that I've been doing every Sunday. It is every Sunday up until the Holy Week, and then we'll be doing one every day until Easter. So for those that are just now seeing these, we are doing the Road of Joy. This is a study that my church is doing, so I thought I would share them as we go through them. So the reading comes from Psalms 32 for this one. So I'm going to read that first, and then we'll take a look at the book. So Psalms 32. A maskil of David, blessed in the one whose transgressions is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed in the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was dried up as by the heat of summer, and I did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. Therefore, let everyone who is godly offer prayer to you at a time when you may be found. Surely in the rush of the great waters they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will console you with my eye upon you, but not like a horse or a mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bit and bridle, or it will not stay near you. Many are the sorrows of the wicked, but steadfast love surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord. Be glad in the Lord and rejoice, O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart. I apologize if it's a little loud, guys. It's actually raining at the moment, and I'm in my car, so that's what you're hearing. But now to the reading. So like I said, that came from Psalms 32. This is titled, In the Rush of Great Waters. Many years ago, I had a student who shared with our class that he had killed a motorcyclist in a car accident. I was teaching a creative writing class. Every class period we opened by looking at a writing prompt that I had projected onto the large screen. One evening every week, students would come in and quietly unzip their book bags. You didn't hear voices, just the quiet scratches of pen on paper. It is a sound that we don't hear much of in classrooms anymore. Every week, the large white screen revealed a different prompt. One week it said, they never noticed me, but I noticed them. Another week it read, of all the things I have learned, this was the most important. We got to know each other well in that classroom. Students who thought they were terrible writers discovered the power of their own voices. We learned from the lives of one another who grew one pen scratch at a time. One week in particular, the prompt read, well, if I can get this page turned, guys, there we go. The prompt read, do you forgive me? That's when my student read to the class his story of a car accident. That was his fault, where he killed a motorcyclist. He told us that the experience destroyed him. He dropped out of school. He developed severe depression. He pulled away from friends and family and spent nearly 2 years in isolation and self-loathing. Psalms 32, 3 through 4 encapsulates how he was feeling. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day. For day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. He went on to tell us that his life was changed by an unexpected display of forgiveness. He wrote a letter to the parents of the man he had killed. He expressed his sorrow for the accident and shared how grieved he had been by their loss. Psalms 32:5 reads, "Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." That is exactly what the parents who had buried their son did. They wrote my student a letter and forgave him for the accident. But that wasn't all they did. The letter included an invitation. They invited my student to join them for dinner. They gave him the seed of the son they had lost. They made him a meal. They showed him pictures. They told him stories of the boy they had loved. And in this unbelievable act of compassion and kindness, my student found grace and healing. Psalms 32:1-2 reads, "Blessed is the one whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Blessed is the one whose sin the Lord does not count against them." My student would return every year to have dinner with the parents of the man he had killed, and every year they would open their home and their memories and offer my student forgiveness. I have never forgotten this story. It is one of the clearest examples I have seen of the image of God in the image bearers of God. The sacrifice of these parents changed the life of my student forever. They lost one son and yet found the strength to redeem someone else's. He went back to school. He found a therapist. He experienced the healing and restoration to his life that being washed from sin through grace always offers those of us who know the depth of which we need it. This Lent, may we all approach the remembrance of the cross with the heart of my student. I hope you remember the God who has remembered you. I hope you will accept the grace that has been freely given. Psalms 32:10 says, "But the Lord's unfailing love surrounds the one who trusts in him." My prompt that day that was projected on a giant white screen said, "Do you forgive me?" This Easter season, may we all remember how Christ gave his life in answer to that question. "Yes," the Lord responded, and then he hung his head and died. The church has been living ever since. And it does also have this highlight in here. This Lent, may we all approach the remembrance of the cross with the heart of my student. So, guys, I think this one is probably one of the more difficult ones, especially so far, and maybe in the whole study. I don't know. I haven't read through it all. But it definitely is, I think, one of the most difficult things for us as Christians and as believers. It's to accept forgiveness. I think a lot of us, we don't think we deserve it. We don't think that we're worthy of that forgiveness. We don't think that, like, we have that mindset of, how can you forgive me? What I've done is so awful, much like this student, that she mentioned. He was destroyed by his guilt. He dropped out of school. He was depressed. He just was shutting himself off, and pulling away from the world, from the people he loved, his friends, all of them, because of that guilt that he felt, and he was unable to forgive himself. And he didn't feel that he deserved that forgiveness. He didn't feel, that he was worth forgiving. And I think that's why this is probably the hardest lesson so far. And like I said, it may be in the whole book, because it's one of the hardest things, I think, in our walk with God in general, is to finally come to that acceptance that, yeah, you may be right, we may not be worth that forgiveness, but in God's eyes we are, and that's what matters. He sent his son to cover us in his blood so that we could be forgiven. That is the whole point of Jesus' sacrifice, because we weren't able to be forgiven. We weren't able to get to heaven without all this extra, sacrifice, and we couldn't approach God. We had to depend on priests, all this stuff in the Old Testament. That was the whole purpose of Jesus coming, was so that would be torn away, that veil would be ripped apart, so that we could come to God and ask his forgiveness, so that we would be washed clean by that pure blood. And by that was God giving us that forgiveness, and he wants us to accept it. That's the whole thing now. We're already forgiven. It doesn't matter, you know, what it is, something of this nature, you know, where man accidentally killed someone and it was not intentional, but the wreck was his fault. You know, it's something like that. Whether we, you know, backslide on our sobriety journey, like in, you know, my case, I know that it's very rare, you know, statistically, that somebody stays sober. And I think a lot of the times the reason why they don't is because when they do have those slip ups, they think and they feel like, oh, well, I've done messed up, you know, I've done failed, so might as well give up, you know, and that's not true. And if there's anything that you take from this video today, please let it be that. It does not matter what it is. It does not matter, you know, if it's a slip up. It doesn't matter if it's an outright, you know, mess up like the student experienced, or, you know, maybe it's something as simple as you were too rough on your kids, you know, anything. It does not matter how big or small or what it involves, because in God's eyes, sin is sin, and forgiveness is forgiveness. And that is what he wants for all of us as his children, to come to him and say, Lord, I'm sorry, and ask for that forgiveness. And then most importantly, to accept it. Because though we don't feel worthy and we don't, you know, think we deserve that forgiveness, God says you're wrong, because I gave my son to give you that forgiveness. So who are we to question God's decision? Who are we to say, oh no, Lord, you know, I don't deserve this, blah, blah, blah. Who are we to make that choice? That is not our decision. That is God's decision. And he has already chosen it and made it by sending his son for us. So don't lessen his gift to us. Come with him. Come to him with an open heart. With asking forgiveness on your lips. And embrace that forgiveness. Accept it. Lay it down at his feet. And keep going forward. Okay, you know, I hit my vape. Okay, I took a drink and I shouldn't have. Okay, I cheated on this test, you know, and I was so nervous and blah. Okay, you did that. And that's not good. And it is sin. And it's, you know, it's human. It's human nature. That is the point, is that we are an imperfect creation because we invited sin into us. You know, our ancestors did long ago. So it's going to happen. We are human and we are never going to get it right. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to, you know, be this perfect being that never sins again. It doesn't matter if you've been saved, you know, a month, a year, 10 years. It doesn't matter. We're all going to slip up. We sin daily, whether we even realize it or not. There is something that comes up. You know, and that's the other thing, is sometimes we're not even aware that we're doing it, but we do. Just us doubting that forgiveness, that's a sin, because God said, no, this is my forgiveness to you. This is my gift to you. And by us questioning that and saying, oh, I don't deserve it, you can't, that is us questioning God, and that is a sin. You know, so it can be something as simple as that, you know, that we don't even realize it is a sin or don't think about it being one. So, you know, as somebody that, most of my addiction and my life in addiction came from me not feeling worthy, not feeling worth it, you know, be it forgiveness or saving or whatever, you know, I just felt completely unworthy. And that is where most of my drug use came from, because, you know, I just wanted to be numb. I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to feel anything. I just wanted to be numb, you know, and I didn't want to be here. I can't tell you how many times, at the time that, you know, I was just like, God, just let me let me go. Don't make me stay here. I don't want to be here. Just let it end, you know? And that's where all of that came from, was me not feeling worthy, me, doubting my purpose, all of it. Like, that's where all of that came from, was self-hatred. And the simple fact is, none of that was ever true. I'm a child of God. I am a creation of God. And just from that makes me worthy, because he chose to put me on this earth for a reason. We all have a reason. We're all here for a purpose. And even though we may not know it right off the bat, that is God's plan. We are to be here to witness for him, to embody him to the world. And we're not guaranteed that plan. We're not, he doesn't say, hey, this is this, let's lay it at. No, that's not how it works. We have to have that faith. And by faith, follow him. And accept that forgiveness. And let him lead us and show us the way where we're supposed to be in his plan for us. That is the only way. So for this Lent season, and for this episode or video, whatever, in particular, if there's anything you take away, please let it be that. You are worth it because the Lord said you are. The Lord sent his own son for us to die the death that we deserved, to face torture and ridicule and, just horrible, horrible things from the very people he was sent here to save. And he faced it all, and he took it all on to ultimately be hung on a cross and die so that we could be forgiven. So don't take that gift and, degrade it or, downplay it by saying, oh, Lord, you don't know what I've done. Don't do that. The Lord does know. He knows all. He knows what you were going to do long before you ever even made the decision to do it. And he says, I love you and I forgive you as long as you go to him. That's all you have to do. So please don't ever let that hold you back. Don't ever let those doubts and those fears and, that self-hatred and self-loathing hold you back, because it's not real. It's the devil trying to keep you from God. God says you are worthy. You are my child. You are my precious creation. All you have to do is come to me and lay it at my feet. So please, if anything, take that today. I'm here for y'all. I love y'all. And if you do ever need somebody to talk to or pray for you, whatever, just send me a message or text me if you have my number or whatever. But I'm praying for y'all. I hope everybody's had a wonderful day. And until next time, God bless.